real honor and privilege to introduce Chief Joe Sullivan to the Wichita Pachyderm. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for this invitation. There's nothing I enjoy more than the opportunity to go out with me, to meet my constituents and to let you know what's going on inside your police department. I know you just saw that the Jensen News report came out, and you saw my response to it. It's very positive. It tells us that we're moving in the right direction, and I'm going to give you an idea of exactly what I mean by that. Yes, I'm from Philly, the home of the Philadelphia Eagles. Really let me down in a big way. But that's all right. Jeff Easter's still getting his laughs out of that one. But this is a great city. I really, in a short time that I've been here, am really just fallen in love with it. The people, just the way people are, it's beautiful. I'm getting used to the wind, but the weather's great. It's much better than Philly. And it's a shame when I look at my hometown and see what's happening there, but that just makes me more glad to be here in this city where crime is trending downward, and there's this community that is very supportive of their law enforcement. And let me tell you, your officers are very supportive of you. They're doing a great job, but we're facing some challenges, and I'm going to talk about what some of those are and what we're doing to counter those challenges. Oh, right. All right. So recruitment. Right now, we're down 60-some officers. That's a huge problem in a department of our size. So we have to work on recruitment. Recruitment is a problem nationwide, not just in Wichita. It's probably worse other places. And how are we going to address that problem? We have to cast a wider net. And one of the ways we're going to do that is that, and let me say that we are going to prioritize Wichitans, like the young people that are here today. And I just met with the president of your university yesterday to talk about opportunities for Wichita Tech to partner with the Wichita Police Department and offer opportunities to create a pipeline within the department in a variety of areas. So we just started that discussion, and I am very excited about it because that leads directly to our recruitment strategy. We want young people from Wichita to join our police department first and foremost, but I can't limit it to that. We have to cast a wide net. We have to go nationwide, and that's what we're going to do. And one of the things that we're preparing to do is to have we're going to bring a company in, a professional production company, to put together a world-class, or I should say a first-class recruitment video to highlight not just what a great department I lead, but to highlight what a great city this is, because that was important to me. Because as a new resident of Wichita, that is something that I thought to myself right away. Not only would this be a great department to join, but this is a great city to come and live in. It's very livable. If you're a young person, you have the opportunity to be a homeowner here and to work in a world-class police department that is truly on the move. Other things we're looking at and we are strategizing. There is no police reserve program, and that was part of my discussion yesterday. I'm sorry, there's a police reserve program. We're looking at how we can better utilize those officers. I responded to an abduction last night, and the first officer on the scene was a member of the reserve. So they're highly trained people, and they're very motivated people, and they do some amazing work for the city, and they do it uncompensated. So we need to make better utilization of them. But there is no Explorers program, and there are no PAL centers here, Police Athletic League centers. In Philadelphia, I oversaw 21 PAL centers, and I would say probably the best Explorer program in the country. It is a great pathway to lead young people into the military, into law enforcement, or just to make sure that they pursue college or a trade, to make sure that they have a future. And it gives, the program is not just about athletics, it's about teaching them leadership skills, teaching them self-discipline, time management, all the things that employers are looking for and also college recruiters are looking for. Talked about the video and how we're going to promote the city of Wichita, and we're going to have an enhanced social media campaign, which will be led by Trevor Macy, who's in the audience here today. And we're going to use geofencing and other techniques to focus those markets where we have people reaching out to us, already experienced police officers that want to come to Wichita, which will be another part of our strategy. We are going to take officers from other states. Wichita KLETC has a process that permits that. So we are going to take experienced police officers if they want to come to the Wichita PD from within Kansas and outside of Kansas. Other things we'll be looking at, and this is nothing that is in place right now, but other cities are offering youth signing bonuses, relocation expenses, housing supplements, assistance with school loans, internship programs. Now, internship programs I just talked about. We are reinstituting our internship programs with WSU that stopped during COVID. We're opening those up, and again, I'm in discussions with WSU Tech to create internship programs from their great program, and also internal mentorship programs. I want to make sure that when people come into the academy, they're successful, that they successfully graduate the academy, and that they have good careers within the department. One thing we know that is some of the best candidates, they come from some difficult circumstances, and we just want to make sure they have someone that they can lean on, someone that they identify, someone that exemplifies the best values of policing that they can look to, so that they make good decisions and they have a nice long career. We're going to collaborate with KLETC to establish, as I said, a lateral transfer program. And I have said this publicly, and I will continue to say it. I will do everything I can to make sure that my officers, when the new contract comes up, are given competitive wages and benefits. We're going to look at FMLA benefits. I met with all of my women officers, and we talked about some of the issues that affect them personally that I am going to get behind very strongly. We met yesterday about the promotional process. One of the things in the Jensen Hughes report that we saw was that many of our officers just don't feel the process is fair. And they don't have a lot of, there's some basic flaws in it, and they don't have a lot of confidence in it. So we're going to work cooperatively with our HR department, and the city just hired a great new HR director who brings a lot of experience, a lot of expertise to assist me, because that clearly is not my area of expertise. And we'll work with the FOP to come up with a program that we think our officers will feel is fair and is comprehensive, and it picks the right person. Picks people that are highly qualified to do the job. The other thing the last line there was about a career development process. We don't have that right now. We lack training. I instituted pre-promotional training just recently. We didn't have that at least when I arrived. And we don't have a career development training process to make sure that training is ongoing through everyone's career. That's one thing, no matter what profession you are in, one thing is true: you are never done learning. And we are going to make sure that there will be a training path for officers throughout their careers. It'll be a lateral and it'll be a vertical path. I have police officers that's what they love to do, is be police officers, and I think that's amazing, but I still want to make sure that we give them the opportunities to grow in their careers, even if they're not interested in achieving rank. But those officers that are, we want to make sure the process is fair, it's fair to everyone, that it reflects the diversity of the department and the diversity of our city, and we want to make sure that we prepare them for increasing levels of responsibility. Getting back to training in general, though, I am bringing the ICAT de-escalation training. That is a evidence-based, evidence-proven process of de-escalation where officers learn how to do just that in critical situations so that they do not have to rely on deadly force. We are going to continue and accelerate our CIT and CNT training. CIT is critical incident training, where officers are given special training in how to deal with people that are experiencing a mental health crisis. CNT training is a basic course that we give to our recruits. Once they get a couple years of experience under their belt, then they will go through the CIT training. ABLE and EPIC, active bystander for law enforcement, and EPIC, ethical policing is courageous training. It's another evidence-based program. And if you think about what happened recently in Memphis, that's exactly what this is designed to do. Make officers understand that they are not only responsible for themselves and their behavior, but they're responsible for the behavior of the officer that is to the left or to the right of them. And if an officer is not behaving appropriately, they have an absolute responsibility to intervene and then report. We are going to evaluate, I think that's next week actually, a virtual reality training through Axon. This is a system that other departments have adopted which would allow officers to come in off the street to their headquarters, put on virtual reality goggles and go through a scenario. Take about an hour and they can go back on the street, send another couple more officers in. The problem with training is there's never anything negative about training except that it's costly. Because if I take you off the street for 8 hours, that's a beat that's left uncovered. So this is like a gap training where in between the more lengthy trainings, I can bring you in off the street and just give you an hour refresher to reinforce the concepts that we'll teach you in de-escalation training, in CIT, and in ABLE. I told you I instituted the pre-promotional training. We're also looking at, we have also enhanced our cultural competency and awareness training for recruits. We want to make sure that our recruits understand how in the past policing has contributed to things like Black Wall Street, the Holocaust. We want to make sure that they understand that with the power they are about to receive comes a great responsibility, and they have to respect that responsibility. We also had community leaders come in throughout the city to talk about their respective neighborhoods. What's important to them about their neighborhood. We're doing continuous education, as I said, in leadership, and enhanced specialization training for technical positions like my crime scene investigators. I have a fantastic group of crime scene investigators, but they haven't been given the training to allow them to receive certification for themselves and accreditation for the unit, and we are pursuing accreditation through the state for the department. Once we accomplish state accreditation, then we'll look at CALEA accreditation. What accreditation does, it gives the department a great deal of protection from civil suits, because in order to be accredited, you have to look at every aspect of your operation and make sure that it meets a certain standard. So it forces you to make sure that your training, your policy, your supervision are all in compliance with best practices. I'm going to reinstitute quarterly retreats for my supervisors. One of the things that I know is the majority of my officers and supervisors felt unheard. Right now, I am doing everything I can to make sure that we increase communication within the department, and we'll continue to do so. And one of the things, as I said, that's why we're going to reinstitute those quarterly retreats. The supervisors get a chance to meet with me for an extended period of time and really talk about the issues concerning them. Well, I am taking steps to enhance our active shooter training. It's a reality. It's something that we really would prefer not to talk about, but we have to. These incidents are increasing throughout our country. The frequency is increasing, the severity is increasing, and in many ways the department needs to increase its training, especially our training with our other law enforcement partners, with our great fire department and with our EMS service, to make sure that, God forbid, we have a situation like that. And Mike Hill is here today, and he put an end to an active shooter before we even knew the term active shooter, before we even coined the term active shooter. So it can happen anywhere at any time, so we have to be prepared. As I said, we're looking at new equipment and new training. One of the other things that I've instituted, and it's very important to me, and I'm getting good reviews about, often police almost in the past have reacted negatively when you have a very damning video, body-worn camera video or a poll camera video showing police officers that are not acting up to the standard of our profession. What I do with those videos, I push them out. I make sure that we review those videos with the recruits in the academy, and that sergeants at roll call go through those videos with their officers so we can discuss why this is wrong, how could it have been prevented, and how do we want you to react if you would happen to find yourself in a similar situation. I don't think there's a better way to learn than when you actually look at situations that have happened. And one of the things that I've seen over and over again when we have a bad situation is there's an absence of a first-line supervisor. And that's why, again, pre-promotional training and ongoing leadership training is so important to me. One of my goals is the creation of a officer-involved multi-agency investigative team, and we will conduct sentinel reviews when we do have critical incidents. Critical incident could be anything. It could be an officer-involved shooting. It could be a use of force. It could be an auto accident. But if we have it run into a situation that where one of our members is killed, God forbid, or seriously injured, or a member of our public, one of our citizens, after if any criminal or administrative investigations, we're going to go in for purely positive reasons and look at that incident from every aspect to see if there's something that we could do better in the future, differently in the future, some way we could prevent that incident from happening in the future. It's what the medical field does. It's what the aviation field does. For instance, when someone dies in the hospital suddenly and there's not an immediate explanation for the cause of death. Go in and do a sentinel review and look at every aspect of the treatment to see if there was a critical path that we failed to take that would have prevented that. I intend to do the same thing. I want to make sure that when we do have an officer-involved shooting, that there's an investigation done, that the public can have confidence in, that my officers know that they will be treated fairly, it will not lead to a lack of confidence in the public that we are holding our officers accountable, but my officers will also feel confident they know they can be treated fair, they will be treated fairly. Working on community engagement and trust building. You know, I can't, crime is down in Wichita, I'm very happy to say. Violent crime, very happy that. I'm very proud of the men and women of the department. It's not me who's done that, it's them. But we know that the more community engagement, the more trust we build within all the communities of our great city, the more successful I will be in reducing violent crime. So we're looking at multiple ways in which we will build that trust. We have to be accountable. We have to be fair, consistent, and comprehensive in our disciplinary processes. I've made changes in our Professional Standard Bureau. The Professional Standards Bureau is internal affairs, is what I used to calling them. They report directly to me, so there can be no interference. The Citizens Police Review Board receives my full cooperation. They've already made some good suggestions to me, which I put in place. We're increasing our engagement with our community policing team, and as I said, we're going to look to establish a Police Explorers program. We'll continue with our Citizen Police Academy, and we are creating a Latino Citizens Advisory Board, and hopefully, we are working, the Wichita Police Department, we have done our part of the project, but we are looking for the expansion of combined mental health teams in the very near future. But we're working with the county on that, and so right now we're waiting for the county to take care of their part. These teams have been very successful. We have one team out there now. I think they do a fabulous job, and I think that if you look at use of force, and especially deadly force in the city of Wichita, you can see that the many things that have been done in this department has really contributed to that low number. Improve response times. This is a big problem here in Wichita, and I don't try to hide a problem. I acknowledge a problem. Response time is not what it should be. That doesn't mean all the time, but there are, during peak call loads, there are times when we are not responding to emergencies in an acceptable time. So we're tackling that problem head on. One of the things we've done is we've opened a police call center. That means that when you call the police, and you don't need a police officer to come to your home, but you need to make a report, or you need something where you can make the report over the phone and the detective can follow up at a later time, the call center will take that. We are going to institute night detectives as soon as we promote. That is something we need desperately in the city. I responded to an abduction last night, and the detectives, I called the detectives in immediately, and we already are actively searching for the perpetrators of that crime. The quicker you get a detective on scene, the more likelihood that you're going to, and the more successful you will be in collecting the necessary evidence to clear that crime. So detectives on scene quickly is absolutely critical. We are going to seek funding to expand our cold case unit. You have a great one here in Wichita. I didn't create it. I'm just telling you. I'm coming in from the outside, and I'll be the first one to tell you with an objective point of view. It's a couple detectives, but they do a great job. We are going to begin quarterly homicide reviews. We will look at cold case homicides, ones that we haven't solved yet, and we will use peer review to look at them and go through the case, give some detectives and some officers from other departments, from other agencies, a chance to make suggestions how we might go back in and look at that case again from a fresh perspective. Sometimes that's just what you need. I don't know about you, but anytime I write something, first thing I want to do is somebody else take a look at it, and let Macy take a look at it and read it, find all my grammatical errors, because you never find your own, but I'm good at finding other people's. So, and then we're going to introduce the Medal of De-Escalation Award. We gave this medal out in Philadelphia. Charles Ramsey, one of the greatest minds in law enforcement in my estimation, and I consider it was an honor that I got to work for him. He introduced this in Philadelphia. We're going to, listen, an officer gets involved in combat, we're always going to recognize them for their valor. But there's also a reason to recognize officers when they have the opportunity and they take it, to stop a situation, to freeze it, take a step back, look it over, consider tactics, take cover, think about it, call for supervision, take their time, use talk, and resolve a situation without, you don't always, going through the door is not always the way to go. And when officers did this in Philadelphia, and myself and several of my SWAT operators were actually the first members of the department to receive this award in Philadelphia. And initially, the officers were a little hesitant, and it's become a very popular award. We do things for restorative justice. We do Second Chance Thursday, where we try to help people get their municipal warrants adjusted. And also, we work with the courts on that. It's not just a police department program, but the police department out in West really supports it. And I brought back the Lights On program. If we pull somebody over, especially someone who is, they're low income, they're just trying to get to work, they don't have the money to fix that tail light, maybe they don't even know that the tail light's broken out, there's really no need to be giving tickets out. We're not a money-making function. We're a public service function. Now, we'll give you a coupon so you can go and get that light fixed. We've done the same thing for baby seats. If we stop you, you don't have a child that's required to be in a protective seat, we're going to issue a ticket, because that can't be overlooked. But we're also going to give you a coupon and a number to call. And if you follow the process, we'll get you the baby seat you can't afford. If you go through the process, then we'll negate the ticket for you. But you have to prove that you now have that baby seat and that child is being transported safely. We're looking at the concept of a real-time crime center. I've traveled, well, I have experience. I'm going to say great experience, but I have a considerable experience for the real-time crime center in Philadelphia. I've looked at other cities. I think it's something that would really help us in all the things that I talked about, including response times, but most importantly, real-time crime centers, they take all of the technology that we're utilizing, all of our flock cameras, our ALPRs, all of that, our drone footage, all of that coming into one center, our CAD information, computer-assisted dispatch, 911. What does that do? I watched this happen in Miami. Critical call comes in. The officer in the real-time crime center can immediately go to that camera if there's one there. He or she can see what's going on. He can let the responding officers know what he or she is looking at. That way, that officer has a good description. They know what to expect. They know what the best course of action is. Or they might be responding to a residential location. And I just met with one of my officers who's my liaison to the autistic community. And one of the things that we are going to work on is giving parents and caretakers of people that are taking care of our citizens that are within the autistic spectrum the opportunity to put that information into the 911 system, because the real-time crime center will be able to say to responding officers to that location, use caution. You may encounter an autistic citizen. Or it might be telling our officers going to a certain location, someone living there is wanted on a warrant for a violent crime. Use caution. That might mean send a couple more cars, make sure to send a supervisor. That type of information keeps officers safe, and it also reduces the use of the need for officers to use force. There's a myriad of other things that a real-time crime center does in terms of gathering intelligence, allowing coordination between agencies during a hurricane or some other natural disaster that we might encounter, a large fire. Give me the opportunity to work and coordinate with our great fire chief. So it's something that we're really looking at very closely. But these are just some of the benefits that it has. We're looking at our policies. We're looking at our use of force policies, making sure they're up to date and in compliance with best standards. We're updating our taser policy. We're also testing a new taser. It's called the Taser 10, and would give officers more. And one of the problems with the taser is if you miss that first shot, then the only option you have is a contact shot. And what you're trying to do is prevent contact, so the Taser 10 allows you to fire 9 more times to make sure that you make that contact so you don't have to transfer over to your weapon. It's new technology. We would have to test it for quite some time before we adopted it, but we're always going to be open to looking at new technology. That doesn't mean we're going to adopt it, but we're going to look at it. We changed our policy to make sure that the public has a right to record the police when we're in the performance of our duties, and that wasn't in writing, and it just has to be in writing. We have a policy of tactical disengagement. That means when we arrive at a location and no crime has been committed and our services are not wanted and no other member of the public is in danger, sometimes tactical disengagement is the right way to go. And our automatic license plate readers, great tool, and we just want to make sure that we have a policy out there and that we're being completely transparent with the public. We're going to have a foot pursuit policy, another thing that reduces police use of force. It doesn't say officers can't chase. It just reminds officers to use caution. Think quickly. Has a crime been committed? Why am I chasing? Do I have reasonable suspicion? Is it safe for me? Is a better course of action to call for backup or to create a perimeter? Officers here are actually very good at that. We want to make sure we have a policy against handcuffing small children and an SOP for plainclothes and specialty units. Saw what happened in Memphis. We want to make sure that we have a process. We don't use a lot of plainclothes officers in Wichita. I was really happy to see that, and we won't, but we do need some, and we want to make sure we have a very careful process by which we select them, by which we train them, and why we supervise them, and that we are monitoring critical performance metrics to make sure that if an officer is becoming a problem, we know early on. We have a program called My90 that is in conjunction with our Axon body cameras. And when you call the police, you may get a request to your cell phone, a text message. Completely voluntary and completely anonymous. It just asks you 4 or 5 questions about the service you received. And I'm like beyond happy with the response that we have received so far. And it also, if you wish to, you can leave specific comments. Most of them have been very good, not all of them, but that's critical feedback that we look at and we follow up on. We don't use it for discipline, and we don't ever call you back, but it's something that we use internal so we can kind of gauge our performance. Oh, talked about that. This is, and I'm just going to blow through this, risk train modeling. As was said in the report, there was no single unified strategy, gun violence strategy, that was being utilized by the department. And that meant everybody was doing a lot of everything and a whole lot of nothing. So this is it, risk train modeling, meaning we are going to approach crime from a data-driven standpoint. We are going after the problem people, the problem location, and the problem behaviors. Every morning we have a citywide staff call. We go through everything that happened in the last 24 hours and everything that's going to happen in the next 24 hours, or today we talked about everything that we know is going to happen until Monday morning, to make sure we have a plan of action, make sure everybody's informed, everybody knows what's going on. We are part of the Public Safety Partnership Program, and I know the city is getting ready to bring on the Cure Violence Program, which is a community-based violence intervention program, and I will be very happy to work with them when I have that. Good policing and good community-based violence intervention strategies working separately but in cooperation is the answer. That is when you're going to get the best result. Technology, the flock cameras you have here are amazing. And had nothing like it in Philadelphia. And I am supporting the expansion of that program. So many arrests are made that way. The drone program, we don't have a helicopter, and I found out we don't really have a drone program, so we are building a new drone program, and WSU Tech is our partner agency in that. They're the experts. We're the cops. They're the drone experts. So we're contracting with them, and they are helping us write our policy, get all of our certifications to make sure that we are in full compliance with federal and state law, and that we are safe, that we pick the right equipment, and we buy it at the right price. Constantly evaluating specialty units to make sure that we need them and that they're being utilized in the right way. I instituted a night lieutenant on the weekends. When I got here, I was shocked to learn that we didn't have that. And soon we will have night detectives. We are planning a warrant initiative with the U.S. Marshals sometime in the beginning of the summer. That's still being worked out. Eventually, I hope to have a first deputy. And I talked about our aggressive recruitment plan. So traffic enforcement is a big issue. I bet everybody in this room would like to see that to be done better. The Fatal Traffic Accident Review Board meets now. That's a multidisciplinary board to talk about when we have fatal accidents, to look at everything, not just enforcement, but in terms of environmental factors. Are there better technology, better design of intersections that could have been used, that could have been prevented? Opioids is a huge problem in Philadelphia, and it's an equally huge problem here. So we are attacking that through prevention, education, and of course enforcement. I worked very closely with the great Sheriff Jeff Easter on that. And reduction of emergency response times, we talked about that. I talked about my goals for our forensic unit, our special needs citizens, and our wellness program is something else that we will be starting. Right now, we do some good things. We give out we don't give out AEDs yet, but that's a goal of mine. But our officers have the tourniquets. They have gunshot kits. There's enhanced communication, but we don't have a formalized wellness program, and that's very important because you have to take care of your people if you're going to take care of the public well. You can't send a police officer out there who's suffering from trauma, suffering from PTSD, and then expect him to deal sensitively with members of the public. Some of the things that we are working on legislatively, to outlaw the possession of Delta-8 by minors and tobacco by minors. And we're not going after the minors. Let me make that clear. It's so that if you sell this stuff to them, we're not going to be arresting minors for this stuff. Where there is support for conditional licenses, that is a bill that's pending, meaning that people that have had their license suspended but need their licenses to get to work, we want to make sure that there is a method by which they can at least have conditional licenses to do that. Fentanyl, this is a big one for me. I want to see penalty enhancements for individuals that are arrested selling fentanyl and selling and manufacturing fentanyl. That is a killer. And people that sell things that cause other people to die need to be held accountable. Scrap metal is another big one. This was another big one. Casey Slaughter, one of our lieutenants, has spearheaded this bill to make sure that we're able to deal with the scrap metal dealers that are purchasing the stolen catalytic converters, which sure many people in here have been a victim of that. And that's one more way of attacking the problem from the other end. People will steal them less if it's less economically advantageous for them to do so. So we want to make it harder for people to financially benefit. Party buses are starting to become an increasing problem. We've had a couple shooting incidents from them, and we're working on legislation so we have more control over them and more regulation of them.
Good.
All right.
If you'll follow, get on the person microphone, so take
Okay, Pachyderm members get to go first, and please remember these for questions, not statements.
Dr. Guy has said that. Do you have a proactive strategy with the schools in our area?
Yes. So one of the things that we've already done is the communication between us and US 259. Soon after I got here, we had I found out the hard way that things weren't in place that I thought should have been. But I'm going to say this. Right now, there's a lot of controversy over school resource officers. I'm a big proponent of them, but not everybody is. So that's and the other problem that I'm having there is that, and US 259 supports our school resource officers in a great way. When you talk about being proactive at Comstat yesterday, we talked about the spring is about to hit. Kids will be getting out of school early. Kids will be ending school. Juvenile violence is a huge problem here in that it's gang related. We have an ongoing feud going on right now. And we went out into the schools and want to talk, and this is one of the reasons why I love being the chief here so much. We had an incident in a school, and it was related to incidents that were happening outside of school. I mean, it involved two groups that were feuding, threats being made, and we put together a program, and we with the cooperation of 259, we went in and we made some arrests, and we took some kids in, and we debriefed them, and we met with their parents, and we did it that way purposely because we wanted all the young people to understand that we're not going to have a school where it's not safe for kids to be, where they're going to get jumped, and we're not going to deal with gang violence being exercised and perpetrated within our schools. I mean, normally I would take a much slower approach to schools, but in that instance where I felt children's lives were potentially at danger because of this ongoing feud and because this does involve gun violence perpetrated out of school. So I'm very happy with the relationship that now exists between the WPD and 259, and now I'm looking to expand that to private schools, parochial schools, daycares.
Would you address your perspective on concealed carry, and do you feel that that is a plus in terms of reducing crime and so forth?
Well, I believe that law-abiding citizens have a right to carry a gun and protect themselves. But let me be clear, I am a public servant. I'm not a politician. I enforce the law, I don't make the law. And I try to stay in that area. I try to stay in my lane there because I'm everybody's police chief. You know, even though we might disagree on that, I'm still everyone's police chief. So you're never going to see me become political. You're never going to know what my political leanings are, or if I'm a member of any party, because I always want people to feel that I represent everybody in this community. I did that in Philadelphia very successfully, and I think it was most appreciated. If you call me because you or a member of your family needs our help, you're going to get it.
My question was,
I think that's the same.
Reduce crime and be a plus for your department.
I haven't seen data that shows me it does or it doesn't. But I'm just saying that the laws here are very clear in that regard, that you have a right to protect yourself, and we are going to abide by that law in all times. And I think since I've been here, we've had multiple incidents where a private citizen has used a firearm, and between the way the police conducted the investigation and Mr. Bennett, who's a fantastic DA, has ruled, I think it's consistent that we're going to respect our citizens' right to do so.
So, thanks for being with us. Appreciate your ambitious agenda there. It seemed like a lot to do. I'm not being critical, but it just seems like a lot. If you could pick one or two things that most lower crime in Wichita, what one or two things would you pick?
More officers. Don't have to think about that one. Because if I had more officers, there's more I could do. There's so many things that I want to do. You know, people talk about different specialized units that I should create, and I'm like, well, that's a great idea, but that's one more officer that's not going to be out on the beat tonight answering your 911 call. So it's frustrating, it really is, and that's why I'd have to say everything starts with recruitment and dealing with that manpower shortage of 60-some officers, because I've got to pull community policing officers away from community policing at certain peak hours to respond to 911 calls, or when we have a shooting, to help out. So that impacts my ability to interact with the community. My ability to interact with the community affects my ability to continue to drive down violent crime. So everything starts with having a fully staffed police department. And I have, the only reason I don't is a lack of applicants. There's no other reason. If 66 people, or whatever the number is exactly, showed up outside my headquarters today, I'm free to hire them. It's just a matter of redoing that process, getting our message out there. So, but that's why I have people like Trevor here, who know the things that I don't know, to help me get that done. And that's what, it's a big agenda, but you break it down into its parts, and you assign different people to do it. Got a whole lot of talent in this department, which was really, really great to see.
Community policing has waned a bit the past years, quite a few. And what is your position on community policing, and what, if any, changes are we going to have with community policing? Are we going to have community policing?
So the answer to wind down is because we don't have the officers. We're the police department, right? So whether it's being a police chief or managing a widget factory, right? You got to start with your baseline responsibilities. So I would say my baseline responsibilities are to respond to calls for emergencies in a timely fashion and to investigate crimes. And then you build out upon that. Community policing, and I'm not saying it's a luxury, because it's not. It's a critical function. I'm just saying that it's hard to devote as many resources to it as you would like to when your manpower is continuing to shrink. The other thing, though, I do want to say, and I've said this many times and I feel very strongly about it, so since I can't have that, one thing that I stress over and over again is that, so the danger when you create a community policing unit or group of units, the danger that you face, and the thing you have to be the most careful of, is you can't send the message to the rest of your officers that, oh, community policing is their job. Good, I got that. Community policing is everybody's job. That's why I'm here today, because it's my job, and it's everybody under me's job, because your real opinion of my department isn't going to be because you were somewhere and we were giving bikes away or raising money, giving out Halloween candy. Those things are great. I love them. I think you do it so much better here than they do in Philadelphia. But if you leave that event and you get pulled over for going through a stop sign, which everybody in this room does once in a while, and you get pulled over and a police officer doesn't treat you with respect, it doesn't treat you like a professional, doesn't show any empathy, is rude, especially in front of your kids, your family, that's your perception of my department, not the great event you just went to. So I work every day to try to instill that in my officers, that when they go to take that report, when they are handling that auto accident, taking that burglary report, making that car stop, got to remember that this is a community that supports you, this is a community that appreciates you, and you have to appreciate them.
Chief, welcome to Wichita. I have a problem, and thank you for your perspective on respect. Well, that's very important to me. But I have self-storage, and self-storage is becoming like a criminal ATM. It's really frustrating with what we have. They break in, nobody's around. It can be days, weeks, months before anybody even notices there was a crime perpetrated. The people that are my customers are frustrated. I can't talk about it because then I lose customers that potentially come because, hey, I'm going to lose my stuff if I come to you. I've identified the criminal. The detective knows who he is. He says he's talked to him, and he can't do anything about it. So I'm really, really frustrated. I want your help. I started to do something with Ramsey. Of course, then he decided to take off on me.
Well, you're stuck with me for a while.
It seemed like with this interim, it really kicked up with the temporary guy. So I'm really hoping that you could bring something to us that would really solve this problem, because it's really, really frustrating for my customers.
I understand.
One last thing. I had one customer got the report. The cop came to me and said, hey, you got a business in a Hispanic neighborhood. What do you expect?
Oh,
He was actually Hispanic. Okay, so of course my customers are Hispanic. Can you help me?
Well, I'm not going to respond to that comment. It's not worth my time. But as far as your problem, though, Trevor and I will get with you and let us get caught up, and then we'll make something happen. But I'll say to you and everybody in the room, there is a homeless problem here, and that is tied in with the opioid problem and the dependence problem. People in Wichita are very generous people, and we're getting a lot of people that are coming here with problems because they know you're generous. I'm not saying we shouldn't continue to, but I think it's something that we have to work to make sure that, when you look at the homeless population, you have to kind of separate it out. There are people that lost their job. I mean, they're under economic need, and we need to find housing for them. They want to be housed. It's not their fault they're not housed. And we need to show them empathy, and we need to provide them the help that they deserve to get themselves back on their feet. You have people that are suffering from severe mental illness, and this is something that I really have always disagreed with. There are some people that the only way for them to live a decent, healthy life is to be in a structured environment, so they're getting the medicine they need, they're getting the counseling they need, and not sleeping and freezing on our streets. And we need, there's a real, one thing I was surprised about, the lack of facilities and resources for people that are suffering from long-term mental health problems is probably even less than was available where I come from. And that shocked me because I thought it was pitiful what we had to offer. So I think that's, from a legislative standpoint, really have to express that we want our elected leaders to make that a budget priority. And then you have folks that are dependent. And that problem is just becoming worse and worse and worse. And again, there's not a lot of resources. I have HOT officers, the homeless outreach team. What a great team they are. I supervise 2 in Philadelphia. So I'm qualified to say whether or not they're good at what they do. And they're great at what they do. But again, going back to your question, why don't you start a second one, Chief? I don't have anybody to start a second one. It would be great. But I also need someplace to take folks. I can't move you off the street, ethically or legally, unless I have a place to take you. I can't say you can't sleep here, but I don't have an alternative to offer you. So I know there's talk about building a facility here. I honestly believe that will be a huge help. We had a facility in Philadelphia, but it only operated from like 7 a.m., I believe, or 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. And it was amazing. While that place was open, the minor crimes and nuisance behavior associated with homeless citizens just took an immediate drop. And then as soon as it closed, shot back up when you really dug into the data. So I really hope, and the great commissioner sitting right next to you, that's something that it comes to fruition. I looked at a program they're doing in Miami for citizens with mental health, a facility they're designing down there. I took that information back with me. When I go traveling on your dime, trust me, I work, and I bring things back with me and try to implement it. If they're worth it. And I think this is a model that we should follow up on, because we as police need options to help these individuals, because right now we're just moving. We're moving them off of Broadway, and then they go over to West Kellogg, and we're not dealing with the issue. We can move the encampments out, but we're not dealing with the reason why they're sleeping in a tent.
Thank you for being here and for the information you provided. Something I did not hear, and if you covered it and I missed it, I apologize, but could you make a few comments on what is the current morale of the rank and file? I mean, we've all seen videos of things that have gone on in the past 6 months, but what are we doing to raise that morale, which will help the recruiting efforts? Thank you.
100%. I think we start with, I've unfortunately kind of been left with a lot of lingering discipline, and that was kind of occurred a while ago. And the one thing that not the one thing, but I'll begin with that. Taking the commanding officer of the Professional Services Bureau and making sure that he reports directly to me and answers to no one but me, and no one else can interfere with anything that he or his investigators do, is a first important step. Personnel files are under my sole control. No one can access them without coming through me. I'm the final arbiter on all decisions. I've also shown that I believe in the labor process. I just recently reversed a disciplinary decision because in the due process hearing, I felt that the member made a great presentation. And, you know, one thing about me is I will admit when I make a mistake, or if one of my deputies make a mistake, and I'm not afraid to say that. I think it's good. I think it's the time I spend with them, like responding to calls with them, like last night. It's the phone calls they get from me when they do a good job, or the emails they get from me. I send out chief notes. I try to do that every Friday. I'll make sure to do it today to try to increase their increase communication with them. I'm at every community event they invite me to. I did the polar plunge. I spent the morning giving out the vehicle gun lockers, and then I went right to the polar plunge. So I think it takes time. And to be quite honest with you, I've been so wrapped up with administrative type things. You know, everything I described. I'm trying to get my administration in place to the point where I'll have far more time to get out to roll calls and things like that. But the feedback that I've gotten is that, you know, they see this and they're beginning to feel hopeful about it and confident that they can count on being treated fairly. So I think we're moving in the right direction. That's the feedback that Jensen Hughes got in their interviews, that they're feeling hopeful, and I don't plan to let them down, because that's an important part of it.
I have one final announcement, but first, let's give.
All
our
right.
new chief-
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.